Happy Bike Fit Friday, everybody. This is Deb Slota, certified bike fitter and doctor of physical therapy, coming to you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am on the shores of Lake Michigan right now. I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but in the spirit of a workshop I got the opportunity to put on last night with a colleague of mine, Paula Biasi-Trusky. In the spirit of that workshop, which was focused on bike fit, bike posturing, and then basically stretching or yoga that's specific to the cyclist and the cyclist body. In the spirit of that workshop, what I wanted to do today is highlight what are the major muscle groups that a cyclist should stretch out, either after a long ride or after, or basically on an off day when you're not riding the bike, to help keep your muscles of a good flexibility so they don't get bound down after being cooped up on a bike for so long in the same posture. So this I'm just going to give one example of basically each. I gotta see who's here. Hey Paula, what's up, girl? Hey Tanya. So I'm going to give an example of each of the major muscle groups that a cyclist should stretch out, and then I'll just give you like a basic way to do a stretch for any of those. Paula gave awesome yoga-centric examples of stretching those groups last night in a routine that she did with the cyclists that attended. That was phenomenal. What I'll do is I'll just give you a general way of stretching each of the muscle groups. But bear in mind, thanks you guys, but bear in mind that there are hundreds of ways to stretch each muscle group that I'm going to highlight here today. Okay? So I'm going to go from head to toe and highlight those groups that are important to keep nice and flexible after being on a bike. All right? Number one, your neck extensors. So when you're on a bike, lots of times you end up looking up like that a lot, and these get tight. If they stay tight, you can end up with some pretty gnarly neck pain. So a very simple way to go ahead and stretch those would be to just lightly put pressure at the back of your head, close your jaw, and bring your chin down towards your sternum. So as you're doing that, try to tuck your chin in so you get your chin as high up on your sternum as you can. And that'll ensure that you're stretching the right part of your neck and that you're not just overstretching the base of your neck where that big bone is at the back of it. Okay? So that is muscle group number one. Second muscle group going down from head to toe would be the pectorals. So lots of times you're kind of rounded forward a little bit on a bike. You shouldn't be excessively rounded forward, but lots of times people end up there. So a really good way to open up the chest, and this is similar to what Paula presented last night at the workshop. You're going to interlock your fingers. You're going to lift your chest and then also chin tuck at the same time. Okay? In essence, just opening up your chest and reversing that rounded forward posture. Okay? Third muscle group, triceps. Now it's not because these are shortened while you're riding. They're not. They're just used a lot. Ideally, when you're riding, you've got elbows that are about 15 degrees bent, so you can use your tricep muscle to absorb the shock from the road and maintain control of your bike well. So it's a good muscle to stretch just because it gets used a lot. So the way that we did that last night was to come up and over, and this is a pretty classic tricep stretch. Touch the back. Okay. And then what you're going to do is rotate your arm forward and basically use your other arm to pull it. Okay? You should feel a pretty wonderful stretch throughout the back of that upper arm. And a really good point Paula made last night was, yes, to turn that arm forward straight ahead so you isolate the stretch appropriately. Okay? So stretching the triceps, that would be group number 3. All right? Heading on down, I think another really good one to do would be the mid-back. Okay? And what we're going to do for this one, again, chin tuck so that we're not overstretching the base of the neck. Chin tuck, interlock your fingers in the front, And basically I'm pulling away like this, but holding on with my fingers interlocked. What you should feel is a stretch of your upper shoulders and between your shoulder blades. As you're pulling away, I want you to almost think about separating your shoulder blades, and you'll feel that stretch even more when you do that. It's almost like you're holding a giant ball. Okay? So that's what that looks like. And you should feel it with a chin tuck. You should feel it all throughout your upper traps and then between the shoulder blades. Okay? All right, heading on down the chain. We are going to, what's up, Patrick? Heading on down the chain, we're going to the glutes. Specifically, the piriformis muscle is right here on the side of the hip. It commonly becomes really overused and tight on cyclists, and it can create numbness and tingling and issues down the leg and the side of the hip. So it's really important to keep it as flexible as possible after using your glutes for so long on the bike. So the way that I like to do that, and you can do it, when you're standing. Again, a lot of ways to do any of these muscle group stretches. You're going to cross over, and this is a little bit more yoga-like maybe. I don't know the name of it though, Paula. You can chime in and give me the name of it. But you're going to come down, okay, and you're going to sit into that stretch, and you should feel it right back here, okay, kind of a pinpoint stretch, okay. If this gives you any issues at your knee, I would resort to another way to stretch the piriformis. Probably when you're laying on your back would be the best one to do, and I'm sure you can find that on the internet pretty easily. But so the piriformis muscle, the other muscles in the glutes basically can be hit by just doing like a cross body stretch. So where you can still see me here. So where you would basically cross over, and this is also probably pretty yoga-like, pull here, okay? And then I know lots of times people will do a little bit of a twist to the opposite direction, okay? So on this one, you should feel a pretty good stretch on the side of your hip. This one will be less pinpoint and more generalized to the side and back of the hip, okay? All right, so moving on. Another muscle that works really, really hard as you're cycling is your quads. So basically just doing like a standing quad stretch would work fine. So you're going to grab your ankle, and you're going to try to point your knees straight towards the ground, and then also kneecap straight towards the ground. And then you're also going to make sure that your knee isn't going out to the side, okay? And this ensures that you give a really good focused stretch to the thigh muscle, okay? Another thing to look out for when you're doing this stretch is if you grab your leg and then all of a sudden you start arching your back, make sure you look out for that and you unarch the back, keep it pretty flat, okay? And almost bring your pelvis back that way. Tuck it under, all right? So quads are stretched, and I'd say probably I'm leaving the best for last. So the tightest, in my opinion, the tightest and most problematic muscle in cyclists is the iliopsoas muscle group, and that's commonly referred to as the hip flexors by the general public. This is a muscle group that attaches to the lower, the middle lumbar spine, and then crosses the hip joint after that. So basically, as we're flexed, it is constantly shortened. So this one's probably the biggest one I want people to focus on their off days or after a ride. The way that I choose to do it is going to be to get in a half kneeling position. And then what you're going to do is probably starting off, I would just have your back leg on the ground. Eventually what you can do is get your back leg up to a bench and support it there. But starting off with the shin on the ground and the foot on the ground, what you're going to do is, step one, you're going to rotate your pelvis back, okay? And then to make that stay, what you're going to do is tighten your butt muscle, okay? from there, when you do that, you know, you shouldn't do any compensation with your trunk. Your trunk should stay nice and upright. From there is when you can gently lean into and lunge forward into that opposite leg. But bear in mind, you have to keep this posterior pelvic tilt. You have to keep your hip back so that you're stretching the right muscle. So you're stretching here, and you should feel yourself still holding on here, tightening that glute muscle to allow yourself to open up at the front of the hip. Okay? So I saved the best for last. The iliopsoas is the most problematic muscle in cyclists, in my opinion. And if you're having a tight iliopsoas and it's actually causing you issues, lots of times what will happen is you're going to feel just like a diffuse low-grade ache right in the front of your hips. It can radiate down a little bit more. Also, because of where it attaches, the muscles, the iliopsoas, you can also feel what's almost like a backache. It should feel a very deep, generalized backache. So there are tests that a physical therapist can do to figure out if your iliopsoas is very shortened and pathologically so, and that might be worth a visit to your local PT expert to assess that or figure that out. But that is my 2 cents on stretching for the cyclist. And I'd say it definitely on off days, it's a great thing to go through that entire routine. Holding each stretch, you can do passive static stretching where you hold for up to 30 seconds if you like. But that is just to let you know that is something I don't want you doing before you get on your bike to go riding. What that's going to do is set your muscles up to be less powerful and less responsive. They're going to be really relaxed. So you'd rather have them be that way on your off day or after a bike ride. So thank you all for watching. And if you have any questions, type in on the comments later on after I post this. And it has been a fun Facebook Friday, Bike Fit Friday. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye.